no qualms or no worries about that at all. So I'm lucky enough to be married to Lindsay, who is also another former St. Jude patient that I actually met at a St. Jude event. She was in the middle of her treatment. I finished mine just a couple of
I'm glad you do.
I really do. It's smaller, but I'm going to go look at another place.
And we were fortunate enough to get married on the same.
But I think I'm just going to say right here,
Children's Research
put up
Hospital.
these bookcases and just chill. Because I've got the right side. That's what I call it.
I got it.
I got to get rid of a lot of, emotionally, a lot of stuff.
What's not
Just
cute is
stuff.
that
Yes.
all
You know what I
litters are
mean?
active.
And my mother even looked at me and she said, you need to get,
And the puppy is a litter of
6 bedrooms have been turned into walk-in closets.
Thousands of OMGs.
Racks.
To millions of pets
And
being
it's a
killed
lesson to me.
each year.
But that's
if
also
you
in DC too.
Pets say they believe
So
in
it lets you
staying
know you're holding on to something. I mean, stuff that you never had.
Testing the audio. Reverend, can you say a couple words?
sooner than you
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
stop the accident.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. ABC.
I'm glad to be back.
DEFGHIJK.
Can you?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, you can hear him on
Thank you, sir.
StreamYard?
For puddles or clogged.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, woo! We're
It can
cooking
be
with
cold
hot
enough to
grease,
get
Alex.
pregnant, and it's definitely
It's good. That's a good start.
Oh my gosh, yes, hot grease is what you want.
Pixelport.com for more information.
Oh my gosh, yes.
This is the news. This morning we are
So hey everybody, I'm glad.
1 minute.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. Yes. Hey Sandy, how you doing? Bob, how are you?
the prestigious
Andre, I'm calling you as soon as the show is over. Andre is my godbrother. He's helping me to move.
Female applicants
Okay.
little girls all over the world look to the sky, where the first woman is now in space.
Oh, and Stephen,
Military
I've got to tell you, I'm able
stereotypes
to
are
struggle.
challenged today with the
But I'll
trailblazing
tell you about
promotion
that.
of a U.S. female officer to four-star general.
I'm able to struggle.
30 seconds.
That
Read.
the vast majority of
The way you said that, I know it's good.
Oh, good.
worse.
All right, everybody, let's have a great show.
Men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at goredforwomen.org today.
10 seconds.
The Ad Council
Okay.
and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
Stand by.
WCPT
All right, let's have a
820.
great show.
Where
Glad to be
facts
back
matter.
up, you guys.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show and to Facebook and to YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and let everybody know we're back. Thank you, Jim Addy, for making everything happen yesterday, and you, Mark Pinsky and Matt Cummings. And I've got some exciting news I'm going to share with you in a few days about being able to go up on a few more stations, which is really great stuff. So everybody, let's talk about the Black Church. The Black Church, which is the greatest organizing, really, it's the biggest organization of Black people in America. And it's the greatest organizing mechanism. Dr. King did his work through the church. Reverend Jesse Jackson's done his work through the church. The most successful, really the people who really changed how Black people and how America is came through the Black church. They are known, these Black preachers are known as the freest, richest Black men, typically, in America. Black folks pay you, Black people take care of you, and you speak for them in an unfiltered voice. That's been changing of late. Reverend Stephen Thurston is going to tell us about that, because we've had an infiltration, but not that much of an infiltration, so that 1,000 pastors all across the country, Black pastors, have called for President Biden to have a ceasefire. And what they have also done, Pastor Stephen Thurston, as you well know from this New York Times article, they said, if you don't call for a ceasefire, we will not support you. I think, Reverend Thurston, I think that's the pushback, right?
That's right. We have a large voting bloc.
That's
Our
right.
seniors vote.
I mean, seniors vote, the children vote. The Reverend Jackson's historic campaigns came out of the church. And Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King came out of the church. That does not diminish anybody else's contribution, but that's where we are. So we got to talk about that. And I want to hear what your thoughts are. And then, of course, John Nichols will be with us to talk about Nancy Pelosi, Reverend Thurston, saying that, hey, if you're calling for a ceasefire, you're giving us Putin's message. Hey, you are speaking for the Russians. Huh? Okay, yeah, sounds very J. Edgar Hooverish. Yeah, I said it. Now add more to it before I take anything away from it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You know, if I want freedom, I got to be a communist, which is not even what they are anymore. Goodness gracious. If I want desegregation, I've got to be aligned with Russia. But if I want to be a slave, I'm a capitalist. Think about that, everybody. Hey, girl, Paula, how you doing, Donnie D? Hey, everybody. So let's get right to these headlines so we can get to the rest of the show. Everybody, the U.S. mixed up enemy and friendly drones in an attack that killed 3 troops. American forces failed to intercept a drone attack on a U.S. base in Jordan on Sunday amid confusion about the aircraft's identity. Wow. President Biden blamed Iraq-backed militias and is facing pressure to attack Iran. How is he going to blame them after they made a mistake? Reverend Thurston? Oh, okay. Maybe it's just me. Did I? Okay. All right. An ex-IRS contractor who leaked Donald Trump's tax returns was sentenced. Charles Littlejohn leaked a slew of confidential tax records in 2019 and 2020. It led to reports showing how the richest Americans for years paid little or no federal taxes with the federal government's help, because that is a law, everybody. 5 years in prison is what he is receiving. He received the maximum punishment because he targeted a sitting president and thousands of others, according to the judge. Texas requested transgender youth's medical records from Georgia. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton requested a clinic's records late last year, dating back to January of 2022. Texas banned gender-affirming care for minors last year. We got to talk about that, everybody. Elon Musk said his company Neuralink implanted a brain chip in a human being. The patient, the first human to receive a Neuralink chip, underwent the procedure Sunday and is recovering well. The chips could eventually allow people with disabilities to use smartphones or computers with their thoughts, but some experts have safety and ethical concerns. New rules would make gas and electric stoves more efficient. But you know, if you're building a new place in New York, guess what? They're not using gas. Pastor Thurston, they're using electricity. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 36 degrees today. It will be cloudy. In Minneapolis, 40 degrees. It will be cloudy. In the NBA, the Bulls will be facing off against the Raptors, and the Timberwolves 107, the Thunder 101, and we are getting ready for the Super Bowl. Are you going to go this year, Pastor Stephen Thurston?
I'll be sitting at home this year. I'm going to take this one off.
Okay, I was about to say, because now you know, I remember when I bumped into Reverend Johnny Coleman's husband. Super Bowl one year. I said, because it's an event that many people go to, and it becomes its own thing. My father used to go every year.
Yes.
And then he used to take me, but then he started taking his grandson. But seriously, they could have a great, guys, I think that's important for them to do. They have those memories. And plus, it was not that fun to me. It was just one party after another. I was like, honey, let me go to my room and read a book. Pastor Stephen Thurston, New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church. It just got on my nerves. I'm like, you know how I am, Pastor Thurston. I'm like, it's just, you just give me some more hors d'oeuvres that everybody's breathing over. I'm like, what?
Yes, ma'am. We need to go recharge alone.
That's what these cancers have to do. Pastor Stephen Thurston, how you doing? Hey, how you feeling this morning?
I'm doing all right. A little throat issue, but we're going to press through. We're going to make it. Okay. All is going to be well.
You're going to get that vitamin C and that 300 milligrams of zinc. Oh, yes.
That's it.
You're going to get that. Oh, yeah. And that immunity too.
Get back to 100%.
Oh, yeah, you will.
Boost everything up.
Mm-hmm. So what's on your, well, first of all, how can we worship with you? I'm so proud of you. The church is just continuing to be robust, and it is growing. And of course, Facebook Live every 3:00 Central Standard Time on Fridays. And
Fridays, yes.
That's right. It's your free therapy, everybody. Therapy.
Exactly. That free moment, that mirror moment, to help us to change what's within so that we can change what's around. But if you want to have worship with us, hear me preach Sundays We're live in person at 77th and Cottage Grove in Chicago on the south side. Worship starts at 9. We're done about 10:15, 10:20. So you can get in, get out, enjoy the balance of your day. But you can also catch us on all of our streaming platforms, Facebook, YouTube. Our website is The Cove. THECOV, thecubschicago.org. Go over there, click the link, tune into us. Go catch last Sunday's sermon. It was amazing. We had a guest. He was brilliant. And we would love to have you worship with us and enjoy all of the things that we're doing in the community. Santita, it's not just for members of the church. We want to make everything that we have available to anybody, lottie-dottie, and everybody.
At the Cove. I love it.
Yes, ma'am.
What's on your mind today? We need some good news. Need it.
Here it is. You'll never be ready, so stop waiting. That's the good news today. Actor, comedian, and writer Hugh Laurie once said that it's a terrible thing, I think, in life to wait until you're ready. Throughout our childhood and early adult years, we're conditioned to think that we need to be ready to take the next big step in life. Our teachers won't let us get too far ahead of where they think that we should be in terms of knowledge. Our parents try to protect us from ideas and truths that they think we're not ready to learn about. And then we ourselves hold back when faced with major decisions that we don't believe we're ready to make. We're constantly told we'll understand certain things or be able to do certain things when we're older. Man, I was told that so many times. As if the passage of time alone is enough to teach us everything we need to know about life. Listen, friends, this way of thinking has a hugely negative impact on the way that we live our lives. For one thing, some of us feel we're ready to move forward in life, but are constantly being held back by some norms. Additionally, there are those of us who never take the first step towards
Dr. Knight and Son.
Because despite being told by society that we're ready to do so, we don't believe that we truly are. Let me say it again. Everybody else thinks we are, but we've worked so hard to be held back that we don't believe that we're ready when we really are. And as we move through life, we discover that hindsight, of course, is 20/20, and that time is our greatest teacher. But here's the problem. If we wait for time to teach us how to live our lives, we'll miss the opportunity to take advantage of these lessons. So my challenge to you today is to have confidence in your abilities and faith in the notion that taking immediate action will result in much greater gains than if you wait until the time is right. And I know I see your face. Stephen, how do I make this shift? How do I make this happen? How did I just go for it? Let me give you 3 quick things that will help you. Number 1, stop comparing yourself to everybody else. If you constantly compare your accomplishments to others' accomplishments, you'll always find a way to be disappointed. And this disappointment can lead to self-doubt and feelings of unpreparedness. Listen, I've wasted an enormous amount of time in life thinking that everyone else around me somehow had it all together while I was barely staying afloat. I kept wondering when I would finally have the confidence and abilities needed to move forward in life, as if these things would just come to me one day. And guess what? I later realized that confidence and ability come from active practice. And the reason many others around me may have been more successful was because they didn't waste time hoping for something to come to them. They did the work. They put the
You have a caller with a question for the Reverend.
So number 1, stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Number 2, identify and challenge the excuses that hold you back. Have you ever been like me and said this? I don't have enough money. I don't have a well-paying job. I don't know what I want out of life. I'm not quite ready yet. Listen, since there are innumerable ways things could go wrong when stepping out of our comfort zone, it's possible to create an inexhaustible list of excuses to stay stuck and seemingly safe. But we must realize that most, if not all, of the excuses we make are temporary roadblocks, not concrete walls. And even if it takes a little extra effort, there are ways around them. Listen, if you don't have enough money to go back to school or you're stuck in a dead-end job, you might default to thinking that you'll never make something of yourself. But instead of wallowing in sorrow during this time that you have to yourself, How about engaging in some YouTube videos, some workshops, get a certification that's inexpensive that will help spring you into the next chapter of your life? If you don't know what to do with your life, chances are it's not because you don't want to do anything. Unfortunately, too many of us allow our indecisiveness to manifest in stagnation, and we end up letting opportunity pass us by. They slip away from us. Yes, we should be wary of possible things that won't go well in life. But if we let the fear of being unprepared for such contingencies stop us from taking steps forward, we will never get anywhere at all. Listen, it's okay to not feel like you're ready to make a big move in life. We all feel that way at times, but sitting around waiting to be ready won't get you ready. You need to actively go out, get the experiences that will prepare you for your next steps and your next chapter in life. You've got to believe in yourself. That's step number 3. You've got to seriously believe that God created you and crafted you and gifted you to be amazing in this world. You've got gifts and talents and abilities that nobody else has. Santita, there are other people with radio shows, but can't nobody do a radio show like Santita Jackson. You are gifted in a special and a strategic way. And maybe, just maybe, you aren't ready to take a giant step into the next chapter of your life. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop taking baby steps in the right direction to get where you say you want to go. We tend to measure our worth by our major accomplishments, graduations, first jobs, marriages, the list goes on. But we often fail to realize that none of these things happen overnight. It's through the little steps that we take, leading to these major events that prepares us to the giant leaps that define who we are. Here's the good news, and I'm closing. As long as you continue to press forward, you'll eventually get where you want to be. Time will not prepare you for what's next in life. Only your experiences and the lessons you learn from them can and will. You'll never be ready, so stop waiting. Go do something today.
I'm speechless because this is what I needed to hear today. We've got Dr. Shanina Knighton on, but I want you to wait right here, Dr. Knighton, because David called in from San Francisco. He got up real early, Reverend, because he wants to ask you a question. David,
All right.
David,
Do
what's
that.
on your mind?
Well, morning, Santita and Reverend. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, he's right. You do have an excellent show, and you've caused me to get up at 4 in the morning to listen to it. So there.
You know what? You sound a little muddy. I want to, so we can understand you.
Oh, is that any better?
No, are you in an earpiece?
How's that?
That's much better. That's much better. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, I was going to say, the Reverend's right. You do have an excellent show, and you've caused me to wake up at 4 in the morning and interact. So it is a most instructive show. I was going to raise, certainly everybody's concerned about Gaza, and I was wondering if he's got, I've been worried about whether or not these merchants in the temple are really involved in Gaza. Apparently, they've discovered oil underneath Gaza, and fracking is just offshore of Gaza. And if there are a bunch of people living on that oil, then typically they have the mineral rights to it. And if somebody were to come up with an excuse for a war to either kill or drive people off that land, then they would be giving up their mineral rights. So I'm looking at the 10 Commandments, and whether or not corporations have to live up to the 10 Commandments. So, for example, Chevron has the oil rights to be drilling out there.
No, I need you to get right to that point.
Chevron is working with Israel.
David.
Oh, yeah. Go
okay,
ahead.
Sweet. I need you to get right to the point, because I think that you make a great point that so much of this is about the money, because what has continued to go on, even as you've had this genocide of the Palestinians, the British and the American and the Israeli companies have continued to drill for the gas, drill for the oil, and they've continued to make money. And tens of billions of dollars have not gone to the Palestinians, which is their due. Why don't you speak to that, Reverend? Do these corporations have a responsibility to be obedient to the 10 Commandments?
That's a great question that David poses, and I believe so. We're human beings. Corporations are not just entities out there functioning by themselves. They're run by people, and all people ought to have a moral compass. And we hear this term used that it should be people over profits, and that's the reality. There's enough out here in this world for all of us to benefit and to live comfortable lives. And it's a shame, it's immoral, and it's unfortunate, and it's a sign of injustice, an act of injustice, where a small group of individuals will go to this extreme to exterminate a group of people, to drive them off of their land, to shoot innocent people that have their hands up, that are seeking refuge, that are just in line to get food. There are people that are eating pigeon food and animal food there because no resources have been brought in. That's problematic. And I believe that we reap what we sow, longer than we sow, later than we sow, and more than we sow. People need to be aware of that who sit in these corporate spaces that have the power that they wield to damage and destroy literally millions of lives. It's coming back.
What did Mickey Warren, the great musician from Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, one of my godfathers, he says, you can get by, but you won't get away.
That's it.
Watch it. Dr. Knight, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes on the other side if you have time, but you can get by, but you cannot get away, everybody. Justice will be done. The moral rock of the universe says so. You better get right. That's all I'm saying. Get right. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. We're back up on YouTube and StreamYard and Facebook. Woo! It's good to see everybody. Back in just a minute. Dr. Knighton?
Good morning.
Thank you so much. I just had to pay attention to David, who called in from San Francisco. And he wanted to speak to the pastor specifically. And I'm glad he brought up a great point.
He did.
I mean, because that
Santita,
really
I'm
is
gonna
the
drop off. My throat is on fire.
No, do your thing, but do what
Send me the name of the vitamin C.
Oh, yes. Would you send that to? Please send that to me, Dr. Knighton. That vitamin C, without all of the additives. I'll go in here because I'm gonna send it to him. I think I can find it. Hold on.
Dr. Knight.
Reverend Thurston feels horrible, and he's been on the road, and his throat is bothering him.
You gotta put you up some ginger.
So what should he do?
I had ginger last night.
I mean, no, baby, you gotta do that all. You gotta be very aggressive with it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I get on it.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you what Dr. Knight sent to me, and it has made a big difference. Okay.
Sounds great. I'm on it.
And get you some rest. Also.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll get the rest.
All right. I'll talk to you ladies later.
Right now, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, sweetie. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Let me send this to him, Dr. Knighton. Okay. Who is it? What was I going to say? Because you sent it to me and then I ordered it. Hey, everybody. Hello. And D-Ray, yes, my vision is, it's good. In fact, I'm going to see the doctor in the next, tomorrow. Oh. Just so that I can, praise the Lord, I don't need surgery. I'm not at 100%, but please, I'm not where I was, so praise God for that. I feel I have this wonderful picture of you and your husband over in Saudi Arabia. Too rich. Too rich. I know I ordered it. Let me just go to my Amazon. Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, who do we have up? Do we have Dwight McKee?
We do.
Okay, we
Hi,
have
guest
Reverend
John.
Dr. Erie.
Good morning.
Good morning. Reverend Brown.
Good morning.
Good morning. We were going to have Pastor Thurston, but he is not feeling well this morning. So just keep him in your prayers, but he just gave wonderful good news. Hear me?
30 seconds. Ten seconds. Stand by.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. AM 950 Radio is my home station in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I want to welcome you back to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, and the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. But go over to the YouTube channel, everybody. Please, D-Ray, Paula, go over to YouTube. Facebook has asked me to direct everyone over to YouTube, the Santita Jackson and Friends. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. So please get on over there. Let's talk. We'll be talking with John Nichols about Nancy Pelosi's incendiary charge of those who are calling for a ceasefire might be influenced by China. And in fact, I just heard one of my favorite commentators on CNN just say, well, you know, TikTok and all of these social media platforms, that could be true. But you got to be very careful because during every progressive movement has been charged with being influenced by Russia or some outside force. But, you know, my father reminds me constantly that the origins of the United States are right-wing, quite frankly. Slavery, only propertied white males could own land or could vote, and on and on and on. So let's not forget that. But let's look at the fact that now, when you look at these protesters, anticipate that their groups are going to be infiltrated. They already have been, but there will be mischief as well. These peaceful protests could turn violent. And it's almost always a saboteur from the intelligence community. I'm a veteran of this stuff. I got it. But it's important that we call it out and understand it because I think as a speaker emerita, that's a very dangerous charge. And how can we call ourselves people who are democratic, who believe in the republic, if every time you see every time people protest, they are charged with being subject to an outside influence. But before we get to that, I've got Dr. Shanina Knighton. Dr. Knighton, what's the word on our health today?
Good morning, Santita, and I'm only just going to stay around for a couple of minutes just to remind people, and this is in lieu of what you just mentioned, for us to think cautiously about how we engage with vitamins and supplements, and just remembering that even though there are, the intended benefits of vitamins to be able to help us, there are additives in them that we must be wary of. It is very important because as we think that we are improving our health and increasing what it is that we're doing, unfortunately, sometimes it could actually be working against us. So meaning, I can give you one for example. If you are taking, let's say, vitamin C, and there's ingredients in it such as, let's say, magnesium stearate or silicon dioxide, which should not be in there, but you're getting better and thinking that you're recovering from a flu or a cold, you could actually have diarrhea or upset stomach as a result of that, and you can think that it is because of the actual illness, when in fact it could be coming directly from the vitamins that you're trying to take to improve. So very important too. I already know to say ginger ale because there's a lot of different brands of it. If you are consuming ginger ale that is not natural, that has high corn syrup in it, the sugar already in itself is lowering your immune system. So the sugar is lowering your immune system. So when you have the high fructose corn syrup, you're further aggravating your illness and prolonging it because that is an additive that has bad effects because of the high sugar content and the detrimental effects that it has, which I won't go too much in detail, but we can talk about high fructose corn syrup at another time.
Well, that's important because you need to look at these supplements that we're taking and make sure that they are not hurting you, everybody. Make sure they are not hurting you. Make sure they're not hurting you. Sending you so much love today, Dr. Shanina Knight. And hey, Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA, that's her handle. Let's get to the Black church pushing back against the Biden administration, demanding, having had a meeting with the administration, demanding that in exchange for their support, you have to call for a ceasefire. Many Black people, because of oppression, we identify with people who've been oppressed all over the world. That is what we do. And that is why the parishioners of these persons' congregations have pushed the pastors, and the pastors are pushing the president. And it's something for us to look at. What is going on? It's very interesting. Now you've got these three service persons who've been killed, Dwight McKee and Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary and Reverend Chauncey Brown. They're African-American, and you see their parents crying, and my heart breaks for them. They got the worst possible news. In fact, one of the mothers was waiting for her daughter to call back. And so when she did get a call back, she got the worst possible news. That having been said, maybe, do you think that would shift opinion, Black opinion on Gaza, having seen these three Black service members pass? Dwight McKee?
I think that the tide had already been shifted against Gaza. I think that Black people already begin to see Gaza as an abomination. And so this just reinforced the notion that the people of color paying the heaviest price for this. And the real fear is that now this is going to escalate and become a wider battle. And so I think it's helped reinforce the notion that we need a ceasefire right away before this gets to be even more broad and even more people are under attack, especially our own young people who are over there. And I don't think that a lot of people really understand why they're over there and what them being that have to do with protecting Israel. And so I think it's going to raise a fury of questions as to why do they have all these bases over there, independent even of Israel, and why a compelling need to, what are we protecting over there? Are we protecting Israel? Are we protecting other things like oil or other allies? I think it's going to raise more issues and more questions.
So what do you make of these pastors pushing back on, they didn't just request a meeting with the president, they are demanding that there be a ceasefire. They're demanding that. And I thought that was interesting. People who have conservative congregations, people who have progressive and everything in between. Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes, the new president and CEO of Rainbow Push, was quoted in this article, as was Pastor Jamal Bryant. Some of the biggest preachers in the country. Talk to me, Dwight.
Well, I think Biden misunderstood the Black church tradition. I think he thought he was talking to, evangelicals or the Billy Graham crowd. I think that he really misunderstood what the Black church is and who the Black church is. The black church comes from a large, long tradition of pro-peace, anti-war, pro-justice tradition, all the way back to a Frederick Douglass, who was a minister who comes out of the black church that Brother Uri now is the minister in, to Dr. King and his father and his grandfather, his father's father, come out of tradition where they were demanding that the politicians study war no more in
You have a caller.
peace. And even Lyndon Johnson misunderstood him, thought that because he thought he had actually bought him off with that civil rights legislation, and was shocked when Dr. King, in spite of getting that great present from him, put a movement together to resist the war and say this is an unjust war, and I have to, if I'm going to maintain my consciousness, I'm going to have to fight this unjust war. Is that the tradition of the black church is a tradition of fighting for justice and the underserved. And I think that Biden really thought he had them and black men under his thumb because he has given them, 2 or 3 concessions and a present over here and a gift over there. And I thought he thought they was buying their silence when they really come out for more of a prophetic tradition than a political, patriotic tradition. Like much of the white church, they are more out of a patriotic tradition. Billy Graham played golf with the presidents. Dr. King played poker with the presidents. And your dad played poker with the presidents and said, cut it out, study war no more. And he protested the wars in his generation. So I think he just misunderstood who he's dealing with.
Pastor Chauncey Brown, you're head of 1,000 churches connected for Rainbow Push, and of course the Second Baptist Church in Maywood, Illinois. What do you make of this? Because indeed the president of Rainbow Push, Reverend Dr. Frederick Haynes, said, quote, what they are witnessing from the administration in Gaza is a glaring contradiction to what we thought the president and the administration was about. So when you hear a president say the term redeem the soul of America, well, this is a stain, a scar on the soul of America. There's something about this that becomes hypocritical. Pastor Brown.
Absolutely. What we're witnessing, and I echo the sentiments of our president, the Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes, as well as the importance of seeing at least 1,000 other pastors across this country standing and saying, hey, we can't allow politics to continue to be played over humanity. Humanity is suffering. Humanity is dying. Humanity is being imprisoned, being displaced at the hands of the government, whether it's the Israeli government and even the aid of the U.S. government. And I enjoy what I see as far as the pastors coming together and saying, hey, we're not going to lie down and stay within our churches, but we're going to come outside our churches and we're bringing our members with us. And we're going to stand and say, hey, God cares about humanity. God cares about his creation. And despite our political differences, despite maybe our different creeds and different belief systems, we're calling death on humanity wrong. We're speaking out. And I enjoy this because I believe until now, for a long time, the church has lied dormant. The church has been silent. But now we're seeing a unifying power across churches that recognize and relate with the struggle that we're seeing our Palestinian brothers and sisters and those who are even dying in Israel. We're seeing the relation between the genocide and such that has happened all over this world. And we see the relation as African Americans the genocide that's happened on us in years past, and I might say it's still happening in many ways.
Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, your thoughts? What about this call and the demand that you either call the ceasefire or we're not going to support you? That's significant.
I think there are a couple of things here. One, let's start with that last point. It is not, and it has not been a guarantee that we would support the president. So let's start there. So this isn't an ultimatum that you had our vote to begin with. What you had was a relationship and an opportunity to make the case to the constituency that we serve that you are worthy of our vote, so that when we begin to push our congregations to engage in civic participation, it is informed by the agenda, not by the party affiliation. So I want to be real clear on that from the very beginning. The second thing is that when the president talks about redeeming the soul of America, he's right on the what, he's wrong on the why. Because the redemption of the soul of America was about a person. He made it about a distinction between himself and the former president. What he missed was that the why, the redemption for the soul of America, is still one based on moral conscience and principle. The same drivers that caused Dr. King to raise the questions and the issues that he did. The three great evils that we face, poverty, racism, and war, are still the three great evils we deal with even today. And so this call to moral conscience in focusing on the injustice that is currently going on in the Middle East. And here's the injustice that's been perpetrated on innocent civilians on both sides. Let's be real clear. But what we got to recognize is you cannot give your ally license to just totally annihilate his enemy. That's not even biblical in its foundation. And so we cannot sit by, we will not stand by and watch the president claim some sort of right or entitlement to the support of Black people of faith without forcing the president to confront with the Black political theology of those people of faith. And it is grounded very clearly. What we recognize is that this, even in the letter, the thousands, I was one among them who signed the petition, and this is how far back this petition goes. At the time that it was drafted and we were signing it, the death toll had just crossed 10,000. Here we are approaching 30,000, and we still have not heard anything. Not to impose a ceasefire, he won't even use the word ceasefire. And so the problem becomes, if you become, and Dr. King was real clear, when it's all said and done, it is not the words of our enemies that we will remember, but the silence of our friends. He's being quiet at the wrong time. This is the time that he needs to speak up. And at the end of the day, if he thinks that in some political calculus it is going to cost him, the political calculus is that his silence, it will not necessarily mean that folks will run to another candidate or another party. What they will do is that they will get their ballots, they will vote in those elections that matter, and they will leave the presidency blank. It may not go to another candidate, but it will not necessarily go to him. And so that's where we are in this moment. And to your point, Santita, last point, is that this isn't about a uniform theology. This is not groupthink. You have folks who have Southern Baptist congregations, some Methodist congregations, some non-denominational congregations, all signing that petition. And the president needs to be aware. He may get through the primary, but the general election is coming, and that's where judgment will be imposed on how he has led in this moment of moral conscience and moral crisis. And at this point, the jury is not out. The jury deliberation is over. They just not have issued their verdict yet, and the president is wasting time.
Well, I'm glad that you made the point that, everybody keeps saying that Black people will not show up to the polls. That's not true. They just might not vote for you. We need to stop acting as if we are stupid. We, as Reverend Jackson says, we have not been able to survive here for more than 400 years, going on 500, being dumb. That is not what we do. You have a lot of people who feel that they have another option, and they are not. Why do you think, Pastor Geary, and I'm going to ask the rest of the panel this, This article from the New York Times, which was to me a fantastic article, and it must be something big for the New York Times to address it. Black pastors pressure Biden to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. What is it about the Gazan experience that resonates with Black Americans? We saw that when we have these protests, the Palestinian youth reach out to Black American youth and say, hey, this is how you have to deal with the police. Make sure you do this, make sure you do that. What is it? Why is there such resonance?
Well, there's resonance in the notion that when there has been disagreement, and we've often been the enemy. We've often been the one against whom such violent ends and means have been used writ large around the world. Whether we are looking at the experience of plantation slavery in this country, if we look at the Berlin Conference and the carving up of the African continent that led to the colonial period that extends to today, if we look throughout world history, not just American history, this has always been particularly problematic. And when we consider where we are right now, I think it is that awareness of global continuity, the recognition that we've seen this movie before, that is driving this sense of urgency for the prophetic witness of the Black church to speak up in this moment. Because here's what I think my colleagues and I agree on. We will not go to hell endorsing your sin. Once we confront you, we've addressed it.
Now you sounded like my mom. Oh, yeah, she said, I can't bless this mess. This is wrong. Period.
Ms. J is right. I've had that conversation with her.
I know you have. She said, now I've done politics, but I'm not a politician. This is just wrong. That's it. And we come out of the church. We call balls and strikes. Boom. Pastor Chauncey Brown, your thoughts?
Yes, when I said Dr. Jamal Bryant, he said it very plainly that I think that President Biden threatens his own success because of the plight of Black America, because of the struggle that we currently face, have been facing, and in many ways have overcome in this country. We relate to what is happening to those in Gaza, happening on those in Gaza. And so I believe it is without saying that I think when we had this conversation just less than a month ago, we were talking about the silence of the church, the silence of prophetic witness in the church and how important it is. And here we are less than a month later. We have all of these faith leaders, because we are talking about the 1,000 Black churches and pastors, but there are thousands of churches across and even across creed that are standing up and saying, we're not going to be passive in this. Mr. President, we need a different direction. We need a new resolution. We need a peaceful resolution. We need a ceasefire. And it's Dr. Haynes who said it at our Summit for Gaza at the Rainbow Push Coalition. He made the statement or suggested the question, have we become less prophetic to raise money for our nonprofits? And when we raised that question, it enlightened us and gave us a scope, and I believe maybe was a call to action to those churches that were fearful to stand up because of risk, because we do know ceasefire is just such a dangerous word in America today. Really, it's just a humanitarian word that says we want people to stay alive. We don't want people annihilated. We don't want genocide. There's a better way. There's a peaceful resolution. And so what we're witnessing, from my perspective, is something beautiful, and it transcends this one moment. It's the beginning of momentum. This won't be the last time that this group of pastors demands from the president. It won't be the last time that we are prophetically speaking into and speaking to relevant issues with God's revelation. And I tend to agree with Dr. Jamal Bryant. President Biden is standing in the way of his own success, taking the vote for granted. And ultimately, it's unique that many leaders are saying, well, we don't believe one side is the best for us, but we want to make sure that the side that we have chosen is going to work for us. And if it doesn't, we got to go another direction.
Well, Dwight, remember, you're not black if you don't vote for Biden. Just kidding. But he did say that.
Right.
I got 2 minutes for you, Dwight.
Well, I think that our obsession with theology, the theology of our fathers and forefathers, is one that's rooted in identification with Jesus, who comes from the oppressed, who identifies with the oppressed. You know, one of our leading theologians, Howard Thurman, talks about Jesus and the oppressed. I think Reverend Hatch has written a book about it, as a matter of fact, is that when you really examine the God of our Bible, of our Old Testament and New Testament, every position he's taken is with those who are oppressed and suppressed against the wicked and the wealthy. And so it is the basis of how we relate to theology and what God compels us to do, and who God is, and who God's interest lies.
Well,
always with the oppressed.
Well, indeed, that is what Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, he asserted that Jesus is on the side of the oppressed. Fantastic book. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And Dwight, you need to respond to Robert. He said folks will do anything to involve us in their mess. They think that splashing black soldiers all over media are going to make us support folks that's been stealing from us in particular, including down to our identity and names. Wow. There's a whole lot going on. Of course, we pray for these 3 service persons who were killed. Their parents and their loved ones, husbands, wives, partners received the worst possible news. And then the question is, why are we here? What are we doing? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Calls at 773-763. WCPT. Back in just a minute. Dwight? You going to respond to Robert on the other side?
I think, I can.
Yeah, all of you can. Because when I saw that there were 3 service members killed, I said, this is going to be interesting. I'm always looking at we always look at the politics of the situation, right? Like, it's like, okay, how's this going to play? Because there's always much more
how they going to play this.
How they going to play this.
Or how they going to play this is what we look at.
Play this, play us, play it, all of it, right? And when I saw that, I said, okay, how's this going to go? And then they had the mother of the young lady who'd been killed. They had her on, and she was waiting for her daughter to call her back. It was just heartbreaking. She had just spoken with her. And she said, I was waiting for her to call me back.
Jonah Karsh's on.
Okay. And next call she got was that her child had been killed. And I said, oh my goodness. So, Jonah Karsh.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Jonah, everyone. This is, Jonah, Dwight McKee, and Reverend Dr. Santita and Pastor Chauncey Brown.
Good morning.
Dwight.
Good morning, everybody.
Dwight and Chauncey, Pastor Brown, they are really pushing on getting this ceasefire resolution through tomorrow at the City Council. So it's something you all need to pay attention to. Could I connect you to Pastor Brown, Jonah?
Sure. I think we met when I was over there.
Okay.
The first time, yes, we did. Yeah.
Do you have one another's contact information?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You all make sure that you all stay in big touch with each other today. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. And then, of course, Dwight McKee. So stand by, but I'm going to give my headlines over to you. Okay, Jonah? That is the headline, that push.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to do the full on list of the names again?
Well, you know, you can, if you can do whatever you can do in 5 minutes, you know, but that's important. Tomorrow I need you to give an even more robust, because Dwight McKee made the point that we need to know who has, that's why I've always maintained with you too. We need to know who signed on and who has not. You know, to me, Dwight, it is as important to know who voted for the resolution as who voted against it. To me, I'm like, you can't lose by having the vote. You can't lose.
Tell it all.
You can't lose, because you're going to show where people are, and that's the key.
And who they answer to, and who are they real masters? Are they serving their people, or are they serving outside interest?
Mm-hmm. Okay, you gotta make that clear. I'm wondering, why am I getting static when I speak? What do you think that is, Alex?
Not sure, Miss Jackson.
Okay. I'm getting that message. But I know there's something I'm hearing in the background too. So.
Do you hear it when you're live, or just now that we're on break?
Apparently during the show. I'm getting several calls about it. Well, texts and messages. But
let me check your Facebook real quick, just to double check. Because on my end, I don't hear any static.
Well, you know, the radio feed is almost always, well, whatever. Just thank you so much. But Jonah, you want people to, do you have the number for the city council? Or is there like a general number that people can call?
Unfortunately, I mean, if you wanted to give virtual public comment and sign up to do that, but I think that's different. Unfortunately, there's not one number. You have to call the virtual.
Like City Hall? Okay.
No, there's not like a switchboard or anything. You have to like look up the office number and call them.
That's so backwards.
Ms. Jackson, what I'm hearing on your Facebook is a lot of background noise.
I don't know how. Is this just me in the room?
Mm-hmm.
How is it now? Because I'm turning down some of the sound. Is it better? Is it as staticky?
I still hear it on the Facebook.
I'm in a room alone.
Yes, it's about the same. Do you have a space heater on or something?
No, I hear the static, but it's not. I hear the static, but it's coming from one of the guests. Somebody sounds like they're outside even. Okay, stand by. And if you all want to stick around, John Nichols is going to be talking about Nancy Pelosi and her comments about Russia.
And then yesterday she chose China too.
What you say?
So yesterday there was some protesters outside her house.
Good.
And she was getting into the car and she said, "Go back to China where your headquarters is."
Can you believe it?
I don't know. Yeah.
Told you she was senile.
No, she's not. No, she's not.
30 seconds.
She's status quo. Nothing wrong with her mind. At least not on that. She's just letting us know exactly where the status quo are. You know, if I want slavery, then I'm a capitalist.
10 seconds.
But if I want to be free, I'm a communist. Something about that ain't right.
Stand by.
To me. Stand by.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate, to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 36 degrees. It will be cloudy. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 40 degrees. It will be cloudy. And hey, everybody, I'm turning over my headlines as the Bulls face the Raptors tonight and as the Timberwolves are triumphant over the Thunder, 107-101. Turning over these headlines too, Jonah Carr, from If Not Now. There's a big event happening in the City Council of Chicago, which dovetails into what we're talking about today as the Black Church is pushing President Biden. They're telling him, if you do not call for a ceasefire, we're not going to support you. That's the biggest voting bloc of Black people in the United States. That's not a good thing, at least not for him. Jonah Karsh, If Not Now, and what is going on in the City Council tomorrow?
Yes, well, tomorrow we have a fantastic opportunity in the city of Chicago to become the largest city in the United States to pass a resolution at the city council level calling for a ceasefire. This morning we woke up to some great news. The Chicago Sun-Times editorial board has called for alders to support the resolution. Our mayor, Brandon Johnson, is in support of the resolution. And this started as a grassroots effort, a combination of community-based organizations and progressive staffers who felt that after October 7th, when the city council passed a resolution not standing with the people of Israel in the face of a horrific attack against them, but with the state of Israel as it prepared to carry out genocidal violence against Palestinians. And the city council said, we stand with Israel. We stand with the state of Israel. We needed to fix that, and we needed to say morally as a city that no, we need to call for peace. Chicago has, and Chicago area has both one of the largest populations of Holocaust survivors anywhere in the country except for Israel, but it also has one of the largest Palestinian American populations in the country. And those are communities that are systematically divided from each other, but we know actually that our safety is intertwined, and the just unspeakable devastation that we're seeing in Gaza needs to stop immediately, and that's good for Israelis and that's good for Palestinians both. And so we are trying to get to 26. There are 50 members of the city council. We need 26 of them to vote yes. I won't give the full behind the scenes information that we're getting about where people are, but I want your listeners to know which aldermen have not publicly, even if they're saying this or that privately, have not publicly committed to supporting this resolution. I'm just going to name them down so that your listeners urge you to give them a call in the next 24 hours. The meeting is tomorrow at 10 a.m., and they need to hear from as many people as possible that our city needs to stand on the right side of history and pass this resolution. So some of the alders that have not come out in support: in the 2nd Ward, Brian Hopkins; in the 3rd Ward, Pat Dowell; in the 7th Ward, Greg Mitchell; 8th Ward, Michelle Harris; 9th Ward, Anthony Beal; 10th Ward, Peter Chico; 11th Ward, Nicole Lee; 13th Ward, Marty Quinn; 15th Ward, Ray Lopez; 16th Ward, Stephanie Coleman; 17th Ward, David Moore; 18th Ward, Derek Curtis; 19th Ward, Matt O'Shea; 23rd Ward, Silvana Tabares; 24th Ward, Monique Scott; 27th Ward, Walter Burnett; 28th Ward, Jason Irvin; 29th Ward, Chris Taliaferro; 31st Ward, Felix Cardona; 32nd Ward, Scott Wagasback; 34th Ward, Phil Conway; 36th Ward, Gil Villegas; 37th Ward, Emma Mitt; 38th Ward, Nick Sposato; 39th Ward, Sam Nugent; 41st Ward, Anthony Napolitano; 42nd Ward, Brendan Riley; 43rd Ward, Timmy Knudsen; 44th Ward, Bennett Lawson; and 50th Ward, Deborah Silverstein. And it sounds like a lot, but we need the listeners to know there are 50 members of the city council, and we started with 2 co-sponsors, got up to 8, and we were told there's not a chance. And now we have close to 20 22, 23 people, publicly or privately, indicating that they're ready to support this resolution. And we just need that final push to get a few more of them across the finish line. And when they hear from their constituents, that's a big deal. So going to urge everyone, if you heard the name of your alderperson, they have not publicly committed, and we need you to give them a call today.
Amen. And you'll be back on tomorrow because we will be down at the city council. Reverend Jackson's going to be down there. I'm going to be down there. Dwight, we're all going to get down there. Pastor Brown, we're all going to get down there so that we can see. Because I'm going to tell you, you've already won. You went from 2 co-sponsors to 8 people signing on to 20, 21, 22. You want people to go on the record, Jonah Karsh, about how they feel about this. You want them to go on the record, no matter what. Be on the wrong side of history. George Wallace was on the wrong side of history, and he lives in history. Tell the story. Let's not lie about it. If this is not where you are, I just want to know. That's all I want to know. And then I'll get somebody else to run and get your seat. Because I need people who work for me, not for somebody else. Jonah Karsh, if not now, sending you so much love. Can't wait to have you back on in the morning. And everybody, call your alder here in Chicago and let them know that you want them to vote for this resolution. Whether they've signed on or not, let them know what it is that you want. People power is moving the needle in this issue, in this area. Dwight McKee, I wanted you to speak to Robert Williams, who said folks will do anything to involve us in their mess. He says that by thinking that there's by splashing black soldiers all over the media, it might turn our support. Now, mind you, he is not disparaging the lives of those who were killed by these drones, and it turns out it was a mistake. Oh my gosh, Dwight, this is like scary. They couldn't make heads or tails of it, and these people were killed, and more than 30 people were injured. I mean, the numbers continue to go up every day. What do you think about this? Because it was heartbreaking seeing the mother. I think it was the youngest soldier killed. She said, I was waiting for my daughter to call me back. We'd just spoken with her. Wow, Dwight.
Well, it's very, 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 very sad. And we, of course,
second caller
notices to the families. But it raises the issue, is what our children doing there anyway? Is the issue, are they fighting for social justice and for peace? If so, if that is the case, then how come none of our kids die in the Congo, die in the African countries that are going through war or famine? How not white soldiers in Africa or in South America, where they're having all of these issues, dying for the dispossessed and the suffering? So is it really about democracy? Is it about security? Or is it about oil? Is it about, positioning in that part of the world that have the trade routes and the oil fields? And, and who are we doing that in behalf of? Are we doing this in behalf of the average citizen who even today is overpaying for oil, who can't really almost afford to fill their cars? Or are we protecting the interests of the oil companies that make trillions and trillions of dollars off of this oil and off of these shipping lanes? I mean, who is paying the price, and for whom are they paying the price? And so I think that Robert is right. They'll take these black faces and flash them all over the screen and act like it has something to do with democracy and fairness. But the fact of the matter is it that, and I'm just raising the question, or are they using these kids who have, many of them have few occupational options because many of them from poor families, and are they using them to protect the interests of the rich and the greedy? Are they using them so that Netanyahu can steal more land from the poor, who, in terms of caste and class, they should identify with the Palestinian kids more than those oil companies that send them there, because that's who they have more in common with.
Call us at 773-763-9278. Otis, what's on your mind today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I agree with that. I agree that 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 the media and the black people that's on TV on the media are using these murders as like a way to get black people once again to support something that they're not going to get nothing from. Another organization, the guy that came on and said that you was talking to about how he wanted certain people to vote to support Israel. My thing is, before this war, what have the people that in Palestine and Israel done for black people that help us over here or anywhere economically? Then now when they just want to say, hey, this is wrong, this will happen to you too, it's been happening to us. We have an immigration issue over here that's going to I'm finding out that the Chicago Housing Authority is going to get involved in helping immigrants get places to live. And you got black people on the waiting list that have been there for like 8 and 10 years and haven't even got a phone call. So this thing, I just want to know also, this guy asking for names, I want to know who the black pastors are and the churches that's supporting this. I want to know how can I get their information, because when it comes time for voting, any politician supporting this, I'm going to make sure that people don't vote for them. I'm going to make sure that people don't go to their churches. Because when in the Bible, you tell people, not you, those people that support them churches, tell me in the Bible where it's okay for one race of people to go help another race while your people starve to death or suffer, while other people that you helping, they still getting millions of dollars. So that's all I want to say right now. I'll call back tomorrow.
Thank you, Otis. Well, the Bible doesn't support racism, and I think it's a false choice for us to talk about what we're going to give to migrants and what we're not giving to African Americans. They continue to play us off against each other. There are 16 million vacant units of housing in the United States. We could resolve the housing crisis, the homelessness crisis, the crisis of the unhoused if we wanted to. But these people continue to have us fighting each other on the ground while the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. The Bible in no way, shape, form, or fashion supports racism. In fact, we were separated as punishment because we were so foolish when we were all together. So let's be very, very careful about this. Does anyone else want to take a bite at what Otis was saying, Reverend Dr. Uri, Pastor Brown?
Let me start with a couple of things about the way the media is rolling it out and what the interpretation of it. These were 3 black reservists. Having spent time in the reserves, very often we forget that there are folks who go into the reserves because they want some of the benefit to address some of the shortfalls that Dwight just talked about. And they, in the process, find themselves in what we would call the war theater. They find themselves in places where there are conflicts that they don't fully understand. They just they have orders to be there, and they are being true to what their commitment has been. And so what this does is I think it raises the sense of awareness that we are not unimpacted by what's going on. I think it has the exact opposite impact that I think my brother points to, is that it reminds us that as black folk, we can't be silent because we're losing our kids in this conflict as well, and they don't even understand why it's a conflict at this scale and where it originates and how we've arrived at this place. The second thing, though, is I think he's right, that we should make sure that we hold accountability in this season where there's posturing and visiting and trying to kiss babies and come to the different gatherings, because you come exploit my people for your benefit and then forget about us when you get what you asked for. And so I think the accountability that we see in the petition, that is what we hear rising up as these pastors and others are educating our congregations on the issue. It is not just an October 7th issue. When we talk about the history of the conflict and our brother who laid out the city council issues made a clear point that I don't want to lose. There's a difference between supporting the Israeli people and supporting the Israeli government. They are not synonymous. And when we look at the demographics of the state of Israel, it is diverse. All of the, what we would call the three great Western religions are represented in the population of Israel. We know the historic fight over who has access to the ancient city of Jerusalem. And so in the course of this process, we are called to stand with the Israeli people, even if it means we must stand against the Israeli government.
Pastor Brown?
Absolutely. I share the sentiments of Reverend Yeary, as well as listening to Brother Otis, who called in. I think it's a conversation that has to be both and. Hebrews chapter 13 lets us know that we are responsible to show hospitality to strangers, but we don't neglect what is happening in our communities, happening on our communities. And I believe there are so many great pastors, whether connected to Rainbow Push Coalition, those with the Leaders Network, and working to build coalition within our communities. But there's going to have to be a way that the coalition is built. It's not going to be built. A lot of times there's a lot of wanting to tell the church how to function when the church is the voice of God in our communities. And so in the midst of our crisis, we can't refuse to be more like Christ. So yes, there's a lot of things happening in our house, but when our brothers and sisters that may be strangers to our house or strangers unto us, we still have the responsibility to come to their aid and come to their aid and walk alongside them and show hospitality. So it's not neglecting what is needed in our community. There's enough in this world that we can all have it all. But we're continually being pinned against each other, fighting for scraps. While, as you alluded to, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And now we're fighting at the bottom while it's empty at the top. We're fighting each other over the leftovers. And there's so much more, which is by design. That's what the system wants us to do. Wants us to fight each other. Wants us to find the flaws in each other nonstop, so that there is no accountability to the system that is breaking gay people. So now you have broken people fighting each other, and we're not seeking reconciliation. We're not seeking unity. We're not seeking to work together. But now we're saying, well, you can't help them because you haven't helped us. And you haven't helped us, so there's no way that you could go help them. That's a broken mindset. That's a bonded mentality. And we can do so much together.
Well, it's also untrue.
And can I add something?
Well, let me add this before you do. That's why travel and exposure is so important. When you get over to Gaza, when you get over to the West Bank, when you get over all over the world, oppressed people everywhere, when you get to Northern Ireland, they identify with Black people in America. They know our struggle better than most of us do, Dwight. I think it's important for us to understand that.
And it's also interesting to me how now we're so concerned about the homeless. When they were homeless, before we started bringing the migrants in, these people have been homeless for years, and yet they have not been on the top of our radar. It's such hypocrisy. So now that other homeless people have been brought in, now we have this esoteric concern, this existential concern about the homeless that we didn't have as they were homeless before. And so it seems like a lot of politics to me, real politics to me, is that it's almost to me a pretext. When Rahm cut the housing vouchers, Rahm was sitting on $500 million of housing vouchers that he, from HUD, that he would not put into play, which is what forced blacks to move from the city. Many of us still voted for Rahm, and few of us picketed Rahm. Some of us did, but few of us picketed Rahm. for sitting on a housing voucher. But now all of a sudden, that it looks like somebody else is coming in and been able to get housing. Now it's an interest for us is what we doing for the folk that don't have housing? You hypocrites. That's what a lot of it is just pure hypocrisy. We don't care about either.
On the best day, Bob Smith says, go West, vote West. Robert Williams says that Mr. Biden, federal authorities profiling black men at U.S. airports, that's a concern for him. And D. Ray Jones said, well, where is Cornel West in 2024? Haven't heard nor seen any movement. Say something, Dr. West. Well, the thing is, you can't get him on corporate television, but he's been on this show, and I'm gonna reach back out to him today so he can come back on. Lorraine says, please like and share. Thank you, Lorraine. Bob Smith says, I'm voting West. Must make me mulatto. Ooh. That's Rich. D. Ray countered, West hasn't been participating in personal stuff, but that's not true. What do you think, Dwight? Because you have been advising Cornel West, and every time I've spoken with him, he's all over the country, someplace.
And he went and spoke for the Palestinians in Detroit. He was here for our event 2 weeks ago and did a magnificent seminar at Push itself, and which was broadcast. You can see it on, if you pull it up on broadcast. They're not going to give him so much airplay on mainstream media because it's not in their interest. They hear the truth that he's telling.
That's D-Ray, that really is how it is. That's why when he comes on the show, I give him the floor. Because you're not going to hear him too many other places. But that's all right. He's still there. He's still there. And call his campaign. Let him know that you want to see him in Chicago or wherever. Let him know. And get people registered to vote. That's how we can make things right. Don't just leave it to the candidate to come up with all the ideas. You come up with some of your own. Get involved. Get active. Make things happen. Let's talk with John Nichols about Nancy Pelosi, Dwight McKee, Reverend Chauncey Brown, Reverend Dr. Todd Geary. Now, not only did Nancy Pelosi say that people who are calling for a ceasefire are giving us Putin's messages, we're being influenced unduly by Russia. When people turned out in front of her home to protest what she said, she told them to go back to China. You can't make this stuff up. Call me. On the Santita Jackson Show, 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. Is that crazy? She's not senile. These folks are just awful. They're just awful, Todd. They are awful. Just awful.
I'm trying to give her an easy way out. Go sit down. Go have a seat.
Go back to China where your headquarters is. I mean, are you serious?
Are there any Asians in that group? That would be considered
a slur?
A racial slur, right, under any other conditions, right? Here's where the party has to be very, very careful that they do not tap into a past that they were able to avoid by a policy opportunity, because the Republicans are arguing that the Democrats just recently claimed to be our friends. Up until LBJ and Kennedy started moving the Great Society plan,
Mr. Nichols is on.
They were very clear on their ideology. So we got to be real clear that this party is not finding, maybe we need to redeem the soul of the party before we can redeem the soul of the country.
Well, there's that piece. John Nichols. Okay, I can hear something in the background, everybody. Okay. If you have to move something in the background, put yourselves on mute. Or if you're in a car or if you're not in a quiet place, please do that. John Nichols, how are you?
I'm well. It's great to hear your voice.
Great to hear your voice.
Great to hear everyone.
Go back to China.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit today.
Of course. Well, I've got Dwight here.
She's on a chair.
Oh, please.
Oh my goodness. I'm sure he was very impressed with the speaker.
Pastor Chauncey Brown, Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, of course, John Nichols from The Nation, Dwight. What have you to say to your brother John?
Right, how are you? How you doing, Dr. John? Well, I will tell you, I am. What's that, my brother? Can't wait to hear what you got to say. Well, we're on a little bit of a tear here. I have to say that I think the speaker, I will tell you this, I think she revealed what the problem is, didn't she? Yeah. That they honestly think that all of this immense, honest, sincere dissent is somehow rooted in being duped or being, in the service of some other country or something like that. They honestly don't recognize that, tens of millions of Americans think that something horrible is being done in our name, but without our informed consent, and are objecting. And, this has happened before, but boy, you would have thought that someone as powerful and as connected as Pelosi would understand the reality.
No, I wouldn't.
And,
No. It lets me know you have learned nothing. It lets me know where your thinking was when J. Edgar Hoover was alive. Dr. King was a communist. Reverend's been a socialist. He's been a communist. I'm sick of it. Really.
1 minute.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, let's be honest, there have been communists and there have been socialists who maybe have had their imperfections, but have been on the side of trying to make things better, right? And, when we write our histories, what we have to understand is that people come from many ideologies, from many, many backgrounds. We judge them on what they do, right? We judge them on their acts, not on what party card or party affiliation they have. And this
30 seconds.
is for Republicans as well. I mean, there are Republicans who occasionally will do something very noble and very right. And I guess the lesson here is don't try and use an accusation that somebody's
10 seconds
something or connected to something or being duped or fooled by something.
Stand by.
To try and shut down the debate.
Hold on.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. You know what time it is. It's time to speak with John Nichols, but everybody else wanted to stay around, right? The key Pastor Chauncey Brown and Reverend Dr. Todd Deary want to know what he has to say. Pelosi, she was on CNN with Dana Bash on Sunday, and in an interview, she suggested that the FBI should investigate those calling for a ceasefire. She said, for them to call for a ceasefire is Mr. Putin's message, and I quote her, make no mistake. This is directly connected to what Putin would like to see. I think some of these protesters are spontaneous and organic and sincere. Some, I think, are connected to Russia. And when she was confronted with protesters outside of her home, she told them to go back to China, John, where your headquarters are. John. Now, I'm hearing J. Edgar Hoover, Dr. King. I'm hearing that if I like slavery, I'm a capitalist. I'm hearing if I want freedom, I'm a communist. Just saying.
Well, look, Speaker Pelosi, who she's the former speaker, but she has a position of great authority as Speaker Emeritus. She is a very powerful figure in the Democratic Party, somebody who can pick up the phone and talk to Joe Biden. She represents one of the most liberal cities in the country, supposedly San Francisco. She ought to be somebody who who understands that the tens of millions of Americans who are expressing concern, if the polls are correct, who are expressing deep concern about what's been going on in Gaza, who want a ceasefire, who want the release of the hostages, who want a release of prisoners from Israel, and who want a renewing of a peace process that can actually get to a place of justice for Palestinians and Israelis. But all these people who want this, she ought to understand that they are sincere, that they are knowledgeable, that they read the newspapers, they watch television, they follow social media, they track down information because they want to be on the right side of history. She ought to understand that instead on a national television program where she has a bully pulpit, a platform from which to say, whatever she wants to say. Instead, she smears those tens of millions of people. She suggests that they are at best dupes and at worst in the service of another country. It is the worst sort of politics, and it isn't done with sincerity, I don't think. Maybe I can't get inside her head, but I fear it's done with a desire to shut down the debate. To say that those who are calling for ceasefire are somehow foreign, that somehow different, somehow disconnected from the great mass of Americans. Well, let me tell you something. I have been to those protests. I have seen the people who are out. I have seen Mennonites, people of deep faith, who as a religious denomination have said that it is their duty to go to every congressional office, to go to every Senate office, and demand a ceasefire. They go singing religious songs. They go saying quotes from the Bible. These people are not influenced by Russia. They are influenced by their Christian faith. And the same is true of Jewish Voice for Peace. The same is true of our Muslim brothers and sisters who've risen up in horror at what's going on in Gaza. For Pelosi to say what she said and to try and cast aspersions on this movement is it's not just wrong. It is that, of course, but it's also cruel and destructive at a time when frankly, great movement. Well, yes, it is dangerous.
She has the power to direct the FBI to investigate these people, the IRS, and all of these intelligence communities and the police. That is exactly what she was doing, and we need to recognize this because we have done this before. And she needs to be called out about that. I mean, directly. She needs to be held to account. She does. What she's doing is dangerous. And it's from a playbook. They did that to Dr. King, for heaven's sake. Have we not learned anything? No. I mean, they infiltrated the peace movement when we were trying not to go into Iraq. That's what they do. They do it all the time. She's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's the sadness of it is. The sadness of this is that Nancy Pelosi is a figure who has done a good deal of positive in this world. She's been on the right side of history many times. She was a great legislative leader. There's no question of that. But if this is her legacy, right, to go down as one who is literally smearing a mass movement for peace and justice, not just in America but in the world, it's such an awful way to finish your career. And let me tell you something. People will remember this. Yes, there will be people who actually believe her, actually, side with her, which is terrible. But also, there are people who will remember this and remember this is her legacy, just as what happened, sadly, to Lyndon Johnson, right? Lyndon Johnson, president, who ended up being remembered for Vietnam, right? Because he got it wrong. Nancy Pelosi got it wrong yesterday, or on Sunday. She got it wrong. And I tell you, a lot of people, she kept at it. A lot of people have called her out. It's very notable that, this isn't the 1950s. This isn't the 1960s. I think a lot more people are confident to step up now. I hope so, at least. And to say, this is wrong.
What is the political I'm sorry, Dwight. Well, Dwight, hold on one second. Hold, Dwight, no, hold on. I want you to come in. But is there any political fallout for her with this at this time, particularly as you're watching these young people? I just saw Debbie Dingle on CNN this morning, and she was looking like she was in a frazzle because she's sitting up in Michigan with all of these Arab Americans, and she said, look, I'm trying to let people know what my caseload is, because that is what congresspersons do. She said, I'm dealing with people whose relatives, their cousins, their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their parents are getting killed over in Gaza. She said, y'all got to do something.
Well, and Debbie Dingle, who's a close ally of Nancy Pelosi for many years, has come out for a ceasefire. and is one of more than 60 members of Congress, 60 members of the House. I think 4 or 5 senators have come out for a ceasefire. This is an interesting thing to mention as regards what Nancy Pelosi is saying, because she is suggesting that those who are calling for a ceasefire are somehow doing Putin's business, right? That they are, worthy of being investigated by the FBI. Is she talking about the more than 60 Democrats in the House of Representatives who come out for a ceasefire? Is she talking about the Democratic senators who come out for a ceasefire? Who is she talking about? Who does she think are the dupes here? Who does she think are the people who are potentially in the service of some other country? These are her colleagues. Many of them are her close colleagues and longtime allies. She needs to pause. She needs to pause and think about what she is saying, and she needs to clarify, frankly, that she was wrong, but also to make it clear that there are millions and millions of sincere supporters of a ceasefire in the United States, and to smear them with charges that they are somehow dupes or servants of some other country, that is fundamentally wrong, and she knows that.
Well, Karen Lene says that she should apologize. That is what Karen Lene has written already, that she should apologize, and she should apologize, because it's insulting to people. Yes?
But you know what confuses me, John?
What?
When Goldman Sachs go and sell $1 trillion of bonds to China, to the communists, she don't send the FBI after them. And they're doing direct business with China. It's very confusing when she carries the water for Israel. She's not a subversive. She is representing a foreign state and is considered a patriarch. But if we raise a question about Israel and what they're doing over there, somehow now we're subversive and we work for a foreign state. Again, it's the patent hypocrisy that confuses me.
And she can be in line of succession to the presidency, to a country that is heavily indebted to China. Wait a minute, our best friends are socialists, who are the they're socialists at least for the poor people in the UK, and we are in debt to China, who are communists. Are you for real? What are you talking about?
And this is the painful reality, right? That we live in a country where the very, very powerful gave us trade policies in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, which were very beneficial to China, right? Which were very beneficial to other countries around the world. Those trade policies did tremendous damage to industrial workers, to communities across this country. 60,000 factories closed, a huge kind of hollowing out of whole sectors of our economy. And why did they do that? Because it was very, very profitable for a handful of people on Wall Street, for a handful of investors, and for, frankly, a handful of politicians who got big campaign contributions. But it was very damaging to the great mass of working class Americans. We don't call them out. I don't hear them getting called out as to servants of some other country. But I do hear this attack on, again, I want to emphasize, who is out there calling for a ceasefire? More than 60 Democratic members of Congress, many of them members of the Black Caucus, many of them members of the Hispanic Caucus, many of them members of the Progressive Caucus, but people, all of whom have worked with Nancy Pelosi on fundamental issues. And beyond that, who in the streets, who's out there in these communities, who's out there protesting? These are Mennonites and Quakers and Catholics and Jews and Muslims and people of all religious backgrounds. In many, many cases, probably the overwhelming majority of cases, motivated by their faith and their values, to say that they don't want to see more children killed. They don't want to see more men and women killed in Gaza, civilians being killed, over 25,000 of them. Over 25,000 people killed
And the United States government, providing weapons, providing support, providing cover in the United Nations. I mean, these people are just saying, as Americans, as patriotic Americans, don't do this in our name. Don't perpetuate this wrong. And to suggest that there's anything more or anything different than a sincere faith, a sincere set of values that motivates us, that's the worst of politics. It's the politics we've seen in the past. It's been called McCarthyism. It's been called a lot of other names. It's been associated with J. Edgar Hoover and with the segregationists who tried to attack Bayard Rustin and Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, there's lots of history here, but we're not in history. We're now. We're living now, and we know the wrongs of the past, and we ought to be guided by a sense of what's right for the future.
Some of us know the wrongs of the past, John. Others do not. I mean, we'd be surprised at who really signs on to the philosophy of A.J. Edgar Hoover. And they're Democrats and they are Republicans. And they are people with whom we have worked closely in the past. I don't need to put the caveat that Nancy Pelosi's done some great things and she's been an ally. There's no question about that. But should she be called out about this? Absolutely. And this hits me very personally because I have lived in a family that's been surveilled since I was born, just about. This is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You killed Malcolm X's family. You killed Malcolm X in front of his wife and children. I mean, how much more are we going to do here? This is what we do. The intelligence community is all wrapped up in the death of Dr. King. And on and on and on it goes. The most dangerous Negro in America. And here we go. Oh, here we go again. You saw Michael Moore's movie. The people were calling for violence in these peace rallies. They were from the police. I mean, there's no acknowledgement of that. And so she would dare say, and then she shouts at people, go back to China where your headquarters are. I mean, Nancy, that's where your headquarters are because they carry our debt. Hello? Am I wrong here? No.
Let me be fair to Nancy Pelosi in this regard.
I think I'm being fair.
Actually, but let me offer a little counsel here. Nancy Pelosi was actually right on the trade votes. She was a critic of NAFTA. She was a critic of some of these trade deals because she actually had constituents who said to her, human rights violations of China are real. They need to be addressed. And Nancy Pelosi heard that, right? She heard messages about human rights back in the 1990s and the early 2000s. It was very, very important that she did. In fact, that's frankly one of the reasons why she rose in the esteem of many people in the Democratic Party. How can she not hear the call for human rights today? How can she not hear the sincere expression of horror at what is happening in Gaza and the fact that human rights activists with Amnesty International, with Human Rights Watch, now folks who are at the courts in The Hague, literally stepping up and saying something very wrong, fundamentally wrong is happening here. It needs to stop. How can she not hear that? Or if she hears that, right? If she hears that, even if she disagrees, how can she dismiss it so casually as something that is foreign, as something that is somehow disconnected from America? This is not disconnected from America. This is hardwired into America. The best of America believes in human rights. The best of America believes that if you see something that is wrong, that is being done in our name, you ask that it change, that you ask that it stop. That's what abolitionists did. Mm-hmm. That's what suffragists did. That's what anti-war activists during World War I, and again during the Vietnam War, and again at the time of the Iraq War. That's what has been done throughout our history. These people are not evil for doing this. They're calling America to be better. They're calling America to be itself. You go to the Statuary Hall in the Capitol, you look at some of those statues there. Who's standing up for those states? Robert M. La Follette. What was La Follette's profile and courage? He opposed World War I because it was a war that enriched the arms merchants and sent poor people off to die in, Flanders Field.
the fact of the matter is that many people we eventually hold up as heroes. The Follett, Martin Luther King Jr., Bayard Rustin, many of the people eventually hold up as heroes are the people who were accused in their lifetime of being in the service of other countries.
But the other piece is this, though. When you go through the Capitol, many, if not most, of the statues are of Confederate heroes.
Many.
Hardwired into many, if not most. That was something that my brother, when he was in Congress, saw. That's why he lobbied. He's the one who pushed for and initiated, and that was his legacy, to have a statue of Rosa Parks in Statuary Hall and make it the biggest statue in Statuary Hall, because when you go into Statuary Hall, you have a bust of Dr. King, not a statue. That having been said, hardwired into America is also right-wing politics. We started as slaveholders. I mean, wait a minute, and this is not, and this is loving critique, because I also know that the other part is we're abolitionists, but we started off as slaveholders. You know, we don't believe women should vote. That's how we start. Hardwired into America is our right-wing politics. And I'm saying we've got to be very careful, because power goes in that direction. And so when I hear a Nancy Pelosi, who's done some great things, I don't need to have that caveat, but when she's wrong about this, and wrong, I mean, so wrong that this resonates with the worst of America, with the America that took out Dr. King. Dr. King didn't just die, he was murdered on the balcony. 1 year to the day, to the minute that he said he was going to oppose the military-industrial complex. Blown away. Medicare Evers was blown away. Malcolm X was blown away. John Brown was lynched. This is what we do too. And you have to call people out when they're wrong. This is wrong, and she is lifting up the worst part, the worst aspect of us, John. And then you say she hasn't learned anything. She shouts, "Oh, go back to China where your headquarters are." I'm like, sweetie, that's where your debt is. Hello? What are you talking about?
And it comes at such a look. I'd like to say one other thing here too. This is very politics, because I often come on to talk about politics. This is very bad for Joe Biden. Joe Biden's wrong on these issues, but I think there's some evidence that he may be trying to move. Some evidence that Blinken and others are trying to get to a new ceasefire and maybe at least some progress there. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying that there's some nuance. So Joe Biden's here in this place. He's also running for re-election for president of the United States, and he has a huge portion of his party that is very upset with him on the issue of Gaza. But up to a certain point, you can say, well, that's an honest disagreement. These people they have different views. He may be wrong, but he may be coming from a place that's rooted in his past experience, etc., whatever. But when Pelosi comes and then says, oh, these people are dupes, or these people are doing Putin's business, when she inserts that into the discourse, she drives a deeper wedge between Joe Biden and those Democrats who are upset about these issues.
And you know what, and John, particularly because it is Nancy Pelosi. And maybe I'm upset because I expect so much more from her. And mind you, everybody can make a misstep, everybody can make a mistake, and I give her the space for that. And she can also really believe what she says. I give her space for that too. I just disagree with it. And I'm trying to connect it to a history that has killed all these people that we honor now. All these people who we say, oh, you know, Dr. King was right. Dr. King was right because Dr. King is dead. When he was alive, he was wrong.
Yeah, well, boy, was he, and boy, did he take the hits in those last years of his life. Yeah. And so did Bayard Rustin, so did A. Philip Randolph. I mean, they have gotten much more honor, you know, after their passing than they got when they were doing the work. Because when they were doing the work, they were upsetting those in power. And, you know, look, we have a constitution in this country that offers us the right to freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and also offers us the right to assemble and to petition for the redress of grievances, i.e. to protest, right? In this country, we are supposed to be able to protest because at our best as a country, not at our worst, mind you, but at our best, we believe that out of that protest may come progress, right? There may come a recognition that we are moving in a direction that is different than what the powerful want, that moves us towards some form of justice. Right? The protest does it. It's not the powerful that do it. They don't wake up some morning and say, oh, gosh, I've been wrong. I better do the right thing. They are moved that way. People who protest. When you smear people who protest, when you call them servants of some other ideology or some foreign power, when you say they are dupes, when you say they are somehow not to be listened to because something about them is wrong, right? When you do that, when you don't engage with them on an honest plane, in a place where you have real debate, real, hearing and listening and engagement, when you simply try to smear and shut them down, right, you go against the basic premises of what is best about the American experiment. Not what is worse, but what is best. And Nancy Pelosi, she knows that. She knows that full well. And she knows that when you point this accusatory finger at those who are trying sincerely to change our policy as regards Gaza, when you do that, she knows that that is an effort to shut them down, to silence them, to make them marginalized, to make them the other. That is such a damaging thing to do. It is a damaging thing to do in our broader discourse. And again, I will tell you, it is a damaging thing to do within the Democratic Party because it drives people further away from Joe Biden. And I heard in my piece that I wrote for The Nation, I have quotes from Muslim American leaders and from Democrats who are saying, look, this is untenable. This is not something we can live with. And that's very, very damaging, and Pelosi ought to know the damage that she's done.
Does she? Do you think she
knows?
Dwight?
Well, I'd be curious to know what kind of tax breaks she got on that vineyard she's on in his excellence in the communist.
You know what, Mark? We've got socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor.
Well, how that works, ain't it?
It is how it works. It's an awful thing. I expect more from her, and she needs to have a rethink, at least a political rethink, and apologize. It needs to happen. Because this was Dr. King was smeared this way. They arrested everyone who's been a progressive. Gets smeared that way. Again, I say, if I support slavery, I'm a capitalist. If I support my freedom, then you must want to be with Russia. Are you for real? If I want to break up Jim Crow, I must be subject to Russian influence. Are you what? Do you know what you're saying? That means you're not standing for freedom in America. That means you're not standing for liberty in America. Not just for me, but for everybody. No, that's wrong. And you need to call that ideology out for what it is. I don't care who espouses it. Love you, John Nichols.
Love you.
Oh, boy.
Important conversation.
I know John is running, but stay with me for a few minutes. I've got Dwight here. I think I still have Reverend Dr. Erie and Pastor Chauncey Brown. I'm going to talk with them for just a few more minutes since we're on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hello, everybody. So let's just talk for a few more minutes about what we talked about today. Call your alder in Chicago so we can get this ceasefire resolution pushed on through. Love you, everybody. God bless you. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you, Alex, for a great show. Dwight, Reverend Dr. Erie?
Reverend Dr. Erie's off.
Okay,
but,
what about
Pastor Brown?
Pastor Brown?
McKee, and John Nichols.
Well, you want to react to what you've heard, Pastor Chauncey Brown? John Nichols, Pastor Brown is the head of the Rainbow Push 1000 Churches Initiative. And he's a young pastor in Chicago. Yeah.
Just, by the way, got mentioned on the front page of the New York Times.
Hey, okay. So, Pastor Brown, you want to react to anything you've heard?
Oh my goodness, it's so much for me. I look at the average human. I look at what we're experiencing and just the toll it can take on our mental health. Because there's so many things happening on us, in us, to us, and things that should be happening through us to change the trajectory of this world.
It gives me great comfort that we have great voices that are standing and great minds that are working to bring about a more perfect union and bring about peace around the world. But it is just, I think it was Jonah that from If Not Now that spoke about, and he listed the names of those who have not yet signed on or publicly signed on. And I look at a lot of the circumstances that we spoke about today, and I'm comforted in knowing that every moment has its purpose, and things are being revealed in this season in adversity that could not be revealed in prosperity. And so knowing where people stand is so important. You don't know who you're standing by. You don't know who you're standing with sometimes. And this, I guess the wickedness of the world has a way of exposing the hearts of mankind. It's been said before that what you see can break your heart. And sometimes your broken heart will change what you see. And the hearts of many are breaking right now, and it's changing our perspective on life, on resolve, and it's just changing prayerfully how we behave, how we think, how we function, and how we come to the aid of others in their moment of need. I think it's so important to know that I'm blessed. I'm 29 years old, and I'm blessed to be with the Rainbow Push Coalition. So I'm sitting with history. I'm sitting and I'm learning the history of movements across the world and be able to apply it in our local setting as well as across the world. And so I'm in a privileged space to gain understanding of what we're facing. But I'm also in a privileged space of responsibility that I can't just sit silently, can't sit on the sideline and watch what's happening, but have to get our hands dirty and bring about peace around the world.
Dwight McKee?
Well, the flip side of this is this gives us an opportunity to see who these people really, really are. And once you get past the facade and the masquerade and the play acting, these people are hawks. And as great a hawks as Republicans who they criticize about other things. And is willing to challenge anybody who has a different opinion, is willing to lock them up. And they are as undemocratic as they accuse the Trump people of being. And it's good for us to know this. So when we make our choices with clarity. And make our choices with a sense of understanding who we're choosing between. I was glad to hear them call to say, "Go West, young man." West is the best. I'm glad that people are looking at alternatives and that understand that we're not stuck between these two evils. There are other options and other opportunities. But we need to know who they are.
Oh, absolutely. John Nichols? Is John still there? Well, you know what? I think we have got to keep our eyes open and understand how power works, everybody. And understand power is odorless, it is colorless, it is tasteless, it does not have a party. It does not, it has an ideology. That's all. Oops. My stuff. So be very clear on that. Be real clear that that the powerful can be Democrat or Republican. They cannot stand for the Republican. They can be anti-democratic. There's part of that too. You need to be real clear on that. You need to call people out when they are out of order and when they do things that threaten your rights. And your right to protest without being infiltrated by the intelligence community, you should have that right. Have we not learned anything since the murder of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King? Have we not learned anything since they murdered Medgar Evers and allowed his killer to walk around the community in front of his family for years, for decades? Have we not learned anything? Clearly not. Your default position is to say that I'm going to ask the FBI. That's what she said in the active tense, right? I'm going to ask them to investigate them. Are you for real? She did not she didn't make some little one-off comment. She said, no, they need to investigate them. This is one of the most powerful people in America. The investigations have begun. The infiltrations have begun. What she did was awful. And you need to understand it. You need to call her out on it and deal with it. And beware when you are at these meetings. That when you go to meetings, people who call for the most radical solutions, who call for the violence, or who are real quiet, they're intelligent. Lived with it all my life and I'm sick of it. Dwight?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I love you all. It has been great being back up with you today. Been great. And I am, what a relief that we're back. So we're going to get some other things going too. And I love you all. God bless you. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless.